In the beginning, there was the void. And blah 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 blah. Hironobu Sakaguchi and his team made Final Fantasy. Everyone knows the tale by now, even if some of the details, like the game being vital to Squaresoft's survival, are perhaps a bit of an exaggeration. The story has been told by plenty of YouTube channels already, so there is no need for me to rehash the whole thing. The Final Fantasy games were a very important part of my formative years, though it didn't quite start that way. Back in my early school days, I traded one of my NES games with a classmate and ended up with a copy of Final Fantasy I. And I hated it. I guess my 7-year-old mind couldn't understand the concept of turn-based combat. I didn't try again until Final Fantasy III. And yes, I know all about the correct Final Fantasy numberings, and for the record, I also know about the correct Street Fighter II boss names, about Doki Doki Panic, and that Pac-Man was originally Pac-Man. I've been explaining it to people for 30 years, so there is no need to bring it up, thank you very much. So I didn't try again until Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo, and the rest is history. But even after so many years and so many ports, I've never actually gone back and finished the original first 3 games. So in this video, I'm finally paying my long-standing debt to one of my most beloved sagas. I will be using the Pixel Remaster versions. It's just a more comfortable way to play, but I will be pointing out some of the changes that have been done from previous ports. Let's grab all those Stranger of Paradise memes and start from the very beginning.
Looks like chaos has been waiting for us.
The first thing that comes up is class selection. Warriors can use almost any item in the game and are a solid choice for melee combat. Thieves are annoyingly weak at first but can upgrade into ninjas later on. Monks have the potential to deal extreme damage and save money since they don't rely much on equipment, though their defense will always be low. Red mages are very useful early on, but lose utility as the game progresses. White and black mages are pretty self-explanatory, and always useful to have in a party. I went with a very balanced, typical party. The opening narration sets the stage. The world is in decay, and we are the fabled warriors of light, the only hope to restore the balance and save the realm. The game drops me into the starting city with just enough money to gear up and buy some initial spells. It's very interesting that you can only equip 3 spells per magic tier, so I had to make some early decisions about which spells to leave behind. Most of the time, this is not a big limitation, but it can get troublesome at some parts. Once I felt my group was ready, I spoke to a nearby soldier and went into the castle. Inside, I met the king, who immediately recognized the group as the heroes of prophecy. He asked for help rescuing his daughter, who had been kidnapped by the former knight Garland. Rather than rushing straight to Garland's lair, I spent a bit of time grinding just outside the city to gain a few levels. It wasn't strictly necessary, but I wanted to get a feel for things first before going after the boss. The shrine itself is small and linear. I made my way directly to Garland, where the first boss battle began. They did keep the line, "I, Garland, will knock you all down," which was a bit of a meme way back when. It always sounded a little awkward. Garland is only slightly tougher than the average enemy, so unless you're extremely unlucky, the fight shouldn't pose too much trouble. To be honest, a vast majority of bosses are a bit of a letdown in terms of difficulty. After defeating him and rescuing the princess, the game teleports the team back to the castle. The king celebrates my victory, and I receive my first quest item, the loot. When the group leaves the castle, there will be a scene where the king's soldiers reveal the bridge. As I step into it, another text scroll appears, signaling the true beginning of the journey. This is also when the iconic Final Fantasy theme plays for the first time. By the way, I am not going to include much of the music in this video. Apparently, Uematsu really likes his strikes. After crossing the bridge, I'm completely directionless. Thankfully, one of the new additions is a more detailed map. I start walking east, trying to find anything I can, until I get surprised by a very strong group of monsters and got killed fair and square. Early in the game, my biggest enemy is attrition. There are simply not enough resources to go around, and traveling far distances can get scary. After I try again, I manage to get to the town of Praboka, where people are obviously upset about pirates, but before getting myself into trouble, I go to sleep and buy new things. Once I was prepared, I talked to the very obvious pirate captain in town. After defeating the group of 9 pirates, which wasn't as difficult as it looked, we got access to the pirate ship. Looking at the map, the most likely destination was towards the southwest, but let me tell you, the way to get there felt really, really long. Eventually, I got to the town of Elfheim, limping, without supplies, and with a dead black mage. Oh, and this was the part where I realized that resting at an inn does not bring back the dead, and until you can afford Phoenix Downs or use life spells, the only way to resurrect is by using the temples located in each city. After buying supplies and spells, now it's vital that we speak with as many NPCs as we can to try and piece together where to go and what to get. So I found out that the king of the elves has been cursed to sleep forever, and the only way to wake him up is a magic potion made by a witch named Matoya. Wonder where I have heard that name before.
Very well.
And listen, I have never completed this game before, but as a long-time fan of Final Fantasy and RPGs in general, I already know a lot of things. I know Garland is somehow the final boss, I know that Bahamut turns you into a Giga Chad at some point, and I know that Matoya needs a crystal eye. Without any concrete clues, I just wandered to both the east and the west, farming XP and money and hoping to find another city or a dungeon or anything really. Eventually I reached what seemed to be an abandoned castle to the northwest called the Western Keep. Note that I arrived at Elfheim at level 7, but I was level 11 by the time I actually found something. I guess my talent for getting lost at least helped a little. Inside this castle, an NPC asks for an item located in the Mirage Cave, but gives no direction for it. No matter, since I was running out of places to search when I finally found the hole in the ground. After using a tent and praying to have enough resources, I finally go into the first dungeon. The minimap function is a godsend here. I mentioned this in the Suikoden videos a bit, but this map design of leading you into dead ends pretty much comes from games from this era. Another neat trick with the minimap mode is that if you activate it while inside an enclosed room, you can actually peek at all the other enclosed rooms in the zone, which is a real time saver to plan out your route. Poison is pretty nasty, especially at this low level. I was getting a bit worried about the amount of antidotes I had. At some point I just got overwhelmed and rushed outside to use another tent and return to town for resupply. I'm just that kind of hyper-careful player, which is why I don't recommend people watch me play. But hey, all footage is available to see anyway. Transparency first. After returning, I'm finally able to make it to this important trap chest. Monsters inside chests are pretty common as well, by the way. Once the battle with the Peruvian Mind Flayers is done, we'll get the crown. Also, I make a mental note of the closed doors that require something called a mystic key. With the crown, I depart to the Western Keep, and the NPC is revealed to be Astos, the one that cursed the Elven King. And legitimately, this took me by surprise. Anyway, Astos earns his place on the disappointing boss pile, and we get Matoya's eye. I know Matoya needs the eye, but where is she? By this time I had explored a lot. I even found out where the dwarves live and got a few important hints for the future, but no idea where Matoya is. So eventually I just gave up and looked it up. Turns out Matoya's cave was to the north of Cornelia, something that I completely missed near the start of the game. After delivering the eye, we get the potion to awaken the king, and once the king is awake, we get the mystic key. Now I have to take a long trip to revisit the Western Keep and the March Cave to use the key and open a bunch of trapped chests with items that might or might not be worth the effort. Spoiler, most of them don't. The game loves to troll you with chests. Remembering the tip from the dwarf earlier, I also drop by Cornelia Castle and get the Nitro Powder quest item. Delivering the nitro to the correct dwarf will cause an explosion that rips the continent apart, leaving just enough space for the boat to travel to the west. Thankfully, I didn't get lost this time, as the new town is pretty close by. After we're done doing the usual buying and resting, we interrogate every NPC for clues. There's a cave to the south, and vampires are bad. That's all we need to know. Reaching the Cavern of Earth was pretty easy, and the experience is very similar to what we found on the Marsh Cave, but this time we are stronger and better prepared. Plenty of chests with monsters in them. Eventually, on the deepest part of the cave, we'll find the vampire boss, who was once again disappointingly weak. Right next to him, we can loot the next quest item. But then there's a sudden dead end. The only thing we can do is walk all the way out of the dungeon and try to find out what to do with our newfound item. And I had forgotten about this, but I must have been pretty frustrated with the way being closed, because exiting the dungeon I used the Pixel Remaster feature to turn off the random encounters. You know, this goes for the first 3 games in the collection, but voluntarily turning encounters off will make the experience better, especially for inexperienced players. And despite using this only 2 or 3 times during my playthroughs, I kinda feel guilty about it. That's just my pride talking, I guess. Anyway, not very far from the cave, we find another point of interest to the north, where a giant golem is blocking the way. I ran out to save just in case, but it turns out the golem wants the ruby. Once the item is traded, we can continue on. We make our way to yet another cave, where an old man gives us the Earth Rod, which can be used to open the way forward to the real boss in the Cavern of Earth. Now it's time to travel all the way back to the cave and all the way to the dead end, and there's another 2 floors of the dungeon to explore. At long last, we will reach the first of the 4 fiends, the Lich. And he's gone. I swear it seems I spend more turns buffing than actually fighting. We'll be rewarded with the first of the 4 elemental crystals. Also, a portal will spawn that will mercifully teleport the group outside. The only place we can go now is the southeastern part of the world, and we can reach that easily by going so far to the west you circle around the world. Of course, at first I got lost and walked inside Pravoka, but let's not talk about that. Later I was able to reach another port and walk towards a new town. Our next stop is Crescent Lake, and I am not going to admit how much time it took for me to realize that there were a big bunch of NPCs to the east inside the town. Talking to all of them, I got many hints, and more importantly, the canoe. Using the canoe, we can move through all the rivers. There are 2 places we can reach, the volcano and the ice cave. After getting lost for quite a while, I finally reached the ice cave. However, I ran into this group that completely destroyed my party. Oh, by the way, if you're playing with monks, you're supposed to take their weapons off after a certain level. I was kinda late on that, but now everyone is going to catch those hands. Thinking that I went to the wrong dungeon, I retreated and went towards the volcano. Inside Mount Gulg, the first thing we have to understand is that you're supposed to walk on lava and take the damage. Once we reach the 5th floor underground, we are close to the second fiend, Marilith. We dispatch her rather quickly, and after making sure I had all the treasure, I pick up the second crystal and take the teleporter outside. After resting and buying stuff, there is nothing else to do but return to the ice cave. Turns out I was wrong. I wasn't underleveled, I just had really bad RNG. And it doesn't really matter in the long run because that encounter was just another troll chest. The item we need is that diamond-shaped thing at the center, but the room is designed to make us fall down. The only way to reach it is by going one floor above and finding the crack on the ground that will land us next to the item. There will be a fight, but the evil eye is kind of a joke. With the Levistone in our hands, I don't really know what to do. Besides the vague hint that the Levistone is used for airships, I was really at a loss. Long story short, I asked for help again. I later found out that you can get the hint on Elfheim, but the chances of me seeing that was pretty slim. All it takes to continue is entering the small desert to the south of Crescent, and we'll summon the airship from beneath the sands. With the airship in our hands, I can finally start exploring the northern continent. My first move was looking for new towns in hope of finding new spells and equipment. By this point, we've got enough guild to buy all kinds of supplies, so attrition is not that big of an issue now. The airship can only land on certain types of terrain, so walking will still be required. I also want to clarify that this half of the game is more open than the first one, so chances are I did everything in the incorrect order. I started my search in the town of Lufenia, but no one there speaks our language, so I went somewhere else. Eventually, I ended up in the town of Onrak, where one of the NPCs said that there is something in the waterfall to the north. Say no more, there I went. My logic is that if I am not meant to be there, the monsters will just easily kill me. Thankfully, I handled the small dungeon just fine, and it had pretty decent items as well, like the traditional ribbon. I also talked with a robot NPC that gave me a quest item called the Warp Cube. I have no idea what this does, but I'm sure I'll need it eventually. In the town of Gaia, I get more interesting but vague hints. Next, I decided to explore the holes in the ground on the islands to the south. Thankfully, there are friendly dragons with very straightforward hints, and also free treasure. In one of those caves, I finally meet the famous Bahamut that offers the quest to bring him a token of courage. The directions were pretty clear, so I went to the Citadel of Trials. The Citadel's gimmick is that it's a maze full of teleporters. Pick the correct one and advance, pick the wrong one and lose progress. It's not as bad as it sounds, it was overall pretty easy. At the end, we will loot the rat's tail. When we return to Bahamut, we'll be rewarded with a class upgrade. The knight will be able to pick low-level white magic as he levels. The black and white wizards will be able to pick several spells that they couldn't before. The master remains more or less the same. I have to say that I appreciate that the upgraded classes preserve their Giga Chat looks from the NES versions. This also reminds me how for years other versions of the game have tried to canonize the white mage as female, but we can see he's just a handsome anime man. I always thought that was really funny. The next set of clues has to do with a ferry that has been sold to a caravan that we can use to get something. The hints clearly point to a nearby desert. The problem is that the caravan cannot be seen with the naked eye. I was about to crack and ask for help, But while blindly walking on the desert, I stepped on this weirdly shaped piece of sand. The caravan is just a little store in the middle of nowhere, where the ferry actually costs 40,000 gil, but at this point, money is barely an issue. Then, when we enter the town of Gaia, we'll get a mini scene with the ferry. After I track her down to a small lake, we'll get another scene where the ferry gives me another key item, the oxyhail. And I remember this item being mentioned in that one town with the submarine. Now that we have it, I can talk to the girl and use this thing to go underwater. The Sunken shrine has a bit of a weird layout, but as long as I kept taking the stairs going down, everything was fine. At the end, the third fiend is waiting for yet another disappointing fight. I get the next crystal and exit via the teleporter. But after resting and stocking up, we had to go right back to the shrine because we're missing another key item. If instead of going down the dungeon, I take the other set of stairs going up, we'll get to a treasure room of sorts. The quest item we want is on the upper right corner of the room, but it's completely blocked. And the solution to get there is taking the small path leading to the left, and it magically teleports you to the right. I've got nothing. I'm tired. Anyway, we get the Rosetta Stone. A NPC in town tells me to get the tablet to his brother Une. The problem being I have no idea where he is. Well, I was going to visit all towns anyway to change some spells on my wizards and get some low-level ones for the night. Don't sleep on getting teleport and exit, by the way. It's a bit late in the game to take full advantage of them, but they do make dungeon delving a bit more pleasant. And then I ask for help again to find the NPC and learn the language. After the Duolingo session is over, we can go to Lufenia and speak to the people there. A cool detail is that an off-screen character named Sid is mentioned here. This was added on newer versions of the game, but it's nice to have at least a little reference to the obligatory Sid of every Final Fantasy. Still not as good as the Sid from the Phantom Menace, just saying. And this is a bit embarrassing, but in this town there's a somewhat hidden magic store with arguably the best max level spells in the game. And I completely missed them.
I'm kind of retarded.
Anyway, talk to all the NPCs and receive the new quest item, the Chime. With all preparations done, we can go up Mirage Tower, in the middle of the desert. This will be like 2 dungeons in one, so better invest all that money in a lot of restoratives. After fighting our way to the top of the tower, the warp cube we picked up long ago helps to get the team into the flying fortress. This is like any other dungeon, and it has very powerful items and other special things like the adamantite. When we are near the end, we can interact with this big observation window that will reveal the location of the final dungeon. In the final screen, right before the end, there is a very low chance to spawn the secret boss of the game, the War Mech. If you're short on supplies, you can just come back here later like I did. It's all RNG, but it took me around 40 minutes to finally make him come out. Thankfully, it is not really all that difficult for someone that comes prepared to fight. It's not really all that important to get him, but if you're going for full completion, you're gonna have to do this. Either way, I step up to Tiamat and get the final crystal. After taking the teleporter out, it's time to make preparations to enter the final dungeon. Like taking that adamantite to the Dwarven city to get Excalibur. You probably already realized that our destination is the very same shrine from the start of the game. When you get to the center, you can talk to the bats. They are the lost Lufenian knights sent there many years ago. When you focus the power of the crystals into the portal, you will be sent 2,000 years into the past. What? Yeah, the game is truly trying to pull a last-second time travel, time loop kind of thing.
Bullshit.
The map for this dungeon is very big and a little confusing, but also has the best equipment in the game. Still, things are not so different until you run into an old friend. I was about to treat the Lich like a joke, but RNG made him spam flare and he almost got me. After playing a bit of Phoenix Down whack-a-mole, I managed to recover and win the fight. Clever viewers probably have already figured out what happens next. Before we can reach the end, we're going to have to fight all 4 fiends all over again. While they are obviously stronger, I didn't really have major problems with them. Other than slowly losing resources, of course. Slowly but surely, we'll make it to the final chamber. We see Garland, who says that when we killed him, he was sent back in time by the fiends. And once in the past, he sends the fiends into the future and...
Shut up, asshole!
Oh, anyway, Chaos is a sudden difficulty spike for the game, right at the end. Considering that I fumbled getting the best spells and was somewhat underleveled, I think I did fine. It was a very fun fight. After it's all over, we'll cut immediately to the epilogue. I know it's tempting to pick apart the last-minute time travel twist, but the text is pretty adamant that the loop is closed and no one in the present will remember what the heroes did. That's going to have to be enough, I guess. And that's it. Final Fantasy I is done. And I actually liked it more than I expected. I even wanted to replay it immediately because there's something about doing it all over again with a different party composition. And also knowing where to go, what to do, what paths not to take, or what chests not to open. That kind of replayability is a unique quality that a lot of older games have. I'm not surprised that this game has so many videos with people doing challenge runs. I also know a lot of people were pissed that the Pixel Remaster didn't carry all the bonus content from previous versions, and I feel for you, but to me that was barely a factor, since I didn't grow up with those versions and I wanted something close to the original anyway. You can't talk Final Fantasy without talking about the music, and I stuck to the original NES beeps and boops, and the groundwork for greatness is definitely here. It's just lacking in variety. Next one is going to be Final Fantasy II. See you on the next one.